Welcome to Crest in partnership with Elusive. Producer Dodd here to proudly introduce a milestone in guest history. Greg Owen is arguably one of Welsh surfing's best loved characters. In fact, when Tom and I touched on the idea of a Welsh surfing podcast, we had designed a pilot episode where Mark Vaughan and Greg played off each other. We're therefore stoked that Vaughan is now making his hosting debut, and I can assure you there isn't a dull moment in this one. Part 2 will follow in a fortnight, and it's the Legends only version of the theme tune on this one too. Here we go. Enjoy our chat with Gregory Ross Owen.
Back from our summer break, and indeed the Pink Floyd version of the soundtrack is deserved. The Legend series, as we first called it, is perhaps pretty much at its zenith with this one. We've got Greg Owen in our middle here, and with me for this mammoth moment in Welsh surfing history, there's also a guest co-host in Mark Vaughan. For anyone who's had the privilege of seeing these two play off each other, I can tell you it is one of the finest experiences. And now it's on the device of your choice for this episode of Crest in partnership with Elusive. In the next 2 episodes of this podcast, yes, of course we're making it a double, Vaughnie and myself will be walking through Greg's incredible career and contribution to our surfing world. Not much by the way of intro needed really, is there? It's Greg. You'll figure out pretty quickly why he's such a special dude, so let's welcome him. How's it going, Greg?
Hi, Tom. Thank you very much for having me here.
It's an absolute pleasure. I'm delighted.
How are you, mate?
Good evening, Gregory. I believe it's been at least 18 months since we last cast our eyes on each other, and it was quite a sad occasion for me, actually, because I think you just tamed me at the Wilkinson Sword in Langland. So I think there's about the sufficient amount of time for me to show my face again. Great to see you, mate.
Nice to see you. I'll be fair to you. I think, as I recall, you arrived late and you had an issue with your daughter, so I would say, yeah, I don't think you were quite... clarity of thought wasn't with you that day.
No.
Maybe
not.
There's no excuse. It's no excuse. Lad got smoked in that contest, and that's all that matters, isn't it?
Let's move on to Greg.
So, Greg, we got in, you were just unpacking the camper as we pulled up on the driveway then. Where have you just been? You've been away for a couple of days, haven't you?
I've been to the Badlands of Cornwall, right?
Oh, yeah.
St Agnes. I got a wonderful time.
Amazing.
The kids in the van. I've got this blue T5, right? It's got a rock and roll bed, and it's got the pop top, and it's got the awning tent you put on the side. The best part about it is it's got this fridge underneath, right? This is the best fridge I've ever seen in any van. It keeps everything freezing, so...
these cold ones are having here from that, aren't they?
Similar thing. If you like a cold one at the end of the day, and I do, the blue van is where you want to be.
Yeah. And you get some waves down there?
We did surf, yeah. It was small, but it was blazing sunshine for the week straight.
Yeah.
So camping is a chore when you haven't got the weather, but when the weather's nice, everyone's smiling. We were having plenty of camping fun. We did surf. We had some nice little waves. I was interested in seeing the children develop their surfing skills.
Yeah. You like surfing with your son, don't you?
I love it. And my little daughter, she's got a beautiful style as well.
Yeah.
So it's really, really rewarding, richly rewarding for me to see them develop and progress with their surfing. It's absolutely lovely. So yeah, they had plenty of waves, put it that way.
Yeah. Do you see yourself at all when you're watching the kids learning to surf? Does it bring back your own first baby steps? Your own days in the dairy bowl, as I've heard it called sometimes.
For sure. They both, even though they're both natural feet, right? Yeah. I'm a goofy, yeah. Even though they're both natural feet, on some of the ways, it's like a little flip version of what I used to be like, sort of thing.
Yeah.
But it's just a wonderful, wonderful thing going surfing with your kids.
Yeah.
If I'd recommend it to anyone if you ever get a chance.
And now they're of course going to be they're second generation surfers now, aren't they? Because they got you, sort of paving the way for them. But that wasn't the case for you, was it? Because you moved. It was the same for me actually. I moved to Porthcawl as an outsider to start with. You came from out of Porthcawl. You weren't sort of born here and then raised here from the year dot, were you?
No, I came from Pencoed.
Right.
And about the age of 7, we came down here to live.
Yeah.
And what a move that was.
I bet. Yeah.
Right? I joined Newton Primary School.
Yeah.
And ended up in Puthcall Comp. Brilliant. Immediately loving it. Immediately realising that it was a move in the right direction. I mean, my father was a fisherman, right? And he was closely related to nature. So that's what, coming to the coast for me was like, bingo, I'm in.
Yeah.
That's exactly where I need to be. I can, play it out down here.
And then, of course, was it your mother or your father who had made that decision to have sent you to Welsh medium education? Because ti'n siarad tipyn bach o Cymraeg in it, right?
Tipyn bach, dim rhugl, not fluent, ond dim rhydrwg, not too bad.
O, ti'n siarad yn dda, Greg. Yn arbennig ar ôl couple of cwrw, innit? After a couple of beers, you start speaking really well.
Bendigedig. Cyn gwybod, you know. Yn y pub rydw i'n fel Dylan Thomas.
So, how do you follow up from that? So apart from speaking your own language in the pub, Greg, when you moved to Porthcawl, obviously the sea was on your doorstep.
Yeah.
Did you? Was the surf a natural progression in terms of with the mates that got you into it, or did you just see it and think, "Oh, I got to have a go at that"?
We were in the first year of comp, and we were working in the hydro-slide, right, on Coney Beach. And our job was to go down the hydro-slide as many times as you can in a day to make the place look busy, right? and one time my mate came and he said, I've got a surfboard, Damien Jones, he said, I've got a surfboard. Let's go for a... And it was our break time, so we went in the water there at Coney Beach. I said, Damien, can I have a go? Yeah, sure. I took off on one and I got up straight away. And I just remember I was riding along enjoying myself and I could hear him screaming, Greg, get off the board before the fins go in the sand.
Yeah, definitely.
But
This is Damien Joe Goofy Footer.
Yeah.
Real stylish.
He was a
surfer.
wonderful surfer.
I remember Damien from his
He
early
moved
surfing
inland, I
days.
think, didn't he?
Back those days, I used to surf with Anthony Jones and Damien and Paul Lovell as well then. And then
Gardner as well?
Anthony Cross was the next then. And then Gardner, my relationship with Gardner come into the fold then. And then...
I didn't realise you two had something going like that.
No, not many did. But I was
Julian Gardner, of course, does have right to reply. We'll have him on you one day.
Yeah, so you'll probably give me a clip for that.
But oddly enough, I started surfing in Coney, right? Because I lived in Hookland Road, which was like I could chuck. If you chucked the tennis ball and then went and picked up the tennis ball and chucked it again, if you did that 3 times, you landed in the sea, right? So he started surfing at Coney, which is probably, Wavelength Surfing magazine voted that place the worst wave in Britain, right? I'm not so sure. I think that's a bit cruel, right?
Yeah.
But also, point being, right next door to Coney Beach is, Wick Point, Black Rocks.
Yeah.
Our point is probably one of the best rights in Wales. So I start surfing in Coney, and then as the surfing game goes on and time continues and the years peel on, I'm surfing in the point, and this is stone's throw up from the house. Ideal on the backhand.
Yeah, and certainly gives you that quality of wave that gives you the ability to groom your style and groom your turns and develop a real, off the bottom, off the top. And so was it when you were at that stage, in terms of your progression, when did you reach a point that you thought, I'm actually quite good at this? Or are you still waiting?
No. Yeah, I always wanted more. When I was a grommet or youngster, I just surfed for fun. I went in a few comps and it sort of went okay.
Yeah.
Right? I wasn't the best junior. For me, to try and answer the question the best I can, I from about the age of 17, so say 16 to 20, I didn't compete. I just went,
Really?
What I did do is I travelled the world looking for perfect waves. I wanted to improve my surfing to then go and compete, or even maybe then go and compete, right? So I was up West Bay and Rhino goes, I'm going to be in the British team. And I looked at him and I thought, wow, good on you, mate. And I thought, flipping heck, I wouldn't mind doing that myself, actually.
Yeah.
So about the age of 21 then, started doing this tour around the UK, right, to try and get in the British team.
British Cup Series.
British Cup Series.
Yeah.
And it went well. Me and Rhino went to the British team. We went to California, Huntington Beach.
96.
Herbie was the coach, and it was awesome. And we both did really well out there as well, and it was just brilliant. So my competition, I never really. It wasn't until I was like 21, 22 before I thought, right, you can surf now. I was up there and compete with anyone in Britain.
Now, to touch on something in terms of Porthcawl, in terms of people don't understand that the dynamics and the surfing community of this town. There are some exceptional surfers. You've got European champions, British champions, and there was a real, stronghold of fantastic surfers, not just Welsh surfers, but on the British and European scene through the 80s and into the early 90s. And you must have felt at that point that your surfing had to, appeal. You had to kind of get their approval. Were there people that were really, helpful in terms of those early competitive days, or were there people that knocked you, that you were like, that drove you on to
wrote
be,
you off.
Wrote you off,
I didn't get it. I did have a little bit of advice here and there, but in general, you would just go down the beach and they would be there. They're in front of your eyes, and your eyes just viewing them. That does it. If that doesn't work for you, I don't know what will. So, like in Narrabeen and these places like the Gold Coast now, the reason they're getting world champions is because there's ex-world champions there.
It's a constant pool.
They're looking at them and they're just thinking, "Oh God, he's done that. I can do that."
Well, of course, and in this area you are, and not just this area, in Wales, you're infamous for one particular spot that sits in Porthcawl off the Esplanade, the Esp as it's commonly referred to, a very sucky and appealing left-hander to a goofy foot that offers a short but intense barrel.
Yeah.
And you were, of course, arrested for surfing there as a youngster. Can you elaborate and tell the whole story?
A slight issue, yeah.
Was it a fashion crime or was it a surfing crime? What was it?
Local constable
How old were you?
Didn't see it my way. I was about 14, 15.
Oh, you were young then?
Yeah.
Really young.
I remember the day my cat had died and I was really upset. And we were burying the cat. And I thought, right, I'm going to go surfing now. And I wasn't in the mood to be getting messed around with that day, right? So I'm in the water in the Esp, and I was on my own, and it was a blazing hot August day, and they just put down a new tarmac macadam, and everyone used to go down there sunbathing. There was people everywhere, like loads of people, and I'm surfing away. Then I look around and I see the police officer on the beach, and he's waving me in, and I think, I'm not having that, not today, no way, it's just not happening.
was it illegal to surf?
At the time, right, there was an old bylaw. There was a sign that said bathing dangerous.
No, I remember that
I
sign.
think it might have even said bathing prohibited or bathing. That's what they were on about, right? So it was an old bylaw, and there was talk that the bylaw was so old that they'd fine you a shilling an hour. We worked that out, and that come to about 5 pence in our modern language, modern money. And I thought, I'll pay that before I go in. But anyway, he was waving me in, and I had another wave, and he kept waving. I thought, well, I'm going to have a few more waves actually, mate. You can wave all you like. And by that time, everyone was sort of standing up and pointing and going, oh wow, here we go. I had about 4 or 5 more waves, and he's probably in the midday sun. He's getting more and more irate, and I eventually go in. And I walk up to him, and he says, "Right, come on in. We're off down the station." Well, I just looked at him, and I thought, nope. And I just turned around. I just started running. I ran and I hopped into the shore break, hopped over the shore break, and just started sprint paddling back to the lineup.
So you didn't. So you basically went in and went surfing again.
I was, like I say, I wasn't in the mood for it all that day. And, oh my God, it was one of the most bizarre sights I've ever seen with my own eyes in my whole life. I looked around after I was like halfway back out the back. The police officer was swimming behind me with all his kit on.
No way.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right, well, in front of the reef.
He's swimming out in the middle of the BS.
Yeah, because it doesn't break that far from the shore.
No,
no. It's one of those ways you could potentially swim to, even if it's sort of overhead.
In fact, let me go back. At one point, as I was running back towards the water, I felt this little thud between my shoulder blades. Right, he took his helmet off and chucked it at me. That just inspired me to keep on running.
It's just such a shame there's no CCTV of all this.
Well, nowadays there'd have been 20 phones.
Oh, can you imagine?
Oh, exactly. Yeah.
It would have been the social media flipping huge hit. It's gone viral.
So I blaze it out the back and just carry on surfing away. And he's like, he went back onto the tar macadam, and he gave up the chase. He went back to the tar macadam. And he's sitting on the tarmac, right? And he's got his shoes off and he's wringing out his socks and his water's dripping up and everyone's killing themselves laughing. Oh, man.
Something off last of the summer wine, only you were involved somehow.
It was just quite shocking looking back, right? Anyway, I continue surfing and more revellers continue to join in and look and point and laugh and all that. Then a few more, of the local constabulary arrive. Yes. Then, a few more panda cars get down there. Then there's a hoolie van down there, right? Then in the end, there's two panda cars. There's the hoolie van, and there's 15 feds on the beach.
You're an escaped felon now. You're on the run. A fugitive.
It's a point break, isn't it? We'll get him when he comes back in.
I thought about paddling round to Coney to go, just disappear. I thought that probably won't work. I thought, right, I don't really know what to do. I'm just going to catch a few more waves and think about it. Then the lifeguard, they must have sort of asked the lifeguard to paddle out. Chris Hughes paddled out on a mile, right?
Yeah.
A local legend, right? He comes up to me and he says, Greg, I don't really care what you do, right, mate? But I've been advised to tell you that they're going to wait on that beach until you go in, right? So you've had that notice off me now. I'm going to go now. You've done my job, and he paddled off. So it's a couple more waves anyway, right? And eventually, I went in, and that was it then. Me, the board, in my wetsuit, in the back of the panda car, off to the cell.
In your wetsuit?
In my suit. 14, 15-year-old.
That takes some balls just to go back and think sorted at that age. Most kids would have crapped themselves.
I wasn't in the mood for it that day, and then look. I've got a lot of respect for the police officers these days.
Did they charge you?
I'd go to that now. I've got a lot of respect for the local officers and police worldwide these days, right? I'm changed up from that opinion, right? But when I got back to that officer, when he spoilt my surf session, he was in for a torrent of verbal abuse from me also. Right? There was lip coming at me straight away, how dare he, Right, the charges were actually surfing in the ESP. The second charge was criminal damage from his walkie-talkie that he wrecked because he's running the sea swimming after me. And the other one, I don't know exactly, but they said, I pushed him or hit him. No, I don't think that's true at all. I think he might have just added that on to sort of get something to stick, right? So we went to the court. Simon Tucker came along. He was brilliant, fair play. He looked really, really cool. He had his white shirt on and his black trousers and boots, and he had his quiff back. He's well spoken and he talks, He looks $1 million, and he was like, well, we need this break here now. It's similar to something in Australia or similar to something in America. If we're to get champions progress, we need this to be able to. We need to surface, and also, I'm really thankful to him for that. Ken Evans come along from the RNLI. He'd been in the RNLI for 25 years, right? Ken Evans.
Porthcawl ocean going royalty, weren't they?
For sure.
Ken, Pat, Ray.
For sure.
Yeah.
And he said, oh, well, that lad could have said that young tearaway. That young lad, he was on his craft. He wasn't actually swimming.
Yeah.
He was on his craft. And in a lot of cases, scenarios, we're using those crafts to save people.
Yeah.
I think you would find if something did go wrong on a lot of occasions, it's those guys on those crafts who were there to clean up, to mop up the mess anyway.
Yeah.
So the judge kind of, when it come to the surfing and actual surfing, he thought, right, okay, well, I'm going to change that now. You guys can actually surf there. So in a way, I sort of did everyone a favour because we were allowed to surf there in peace then from that day on.
Yeah.
Well, that's a groundbreaking achievement to have the law changed locally on the basis of your actions as a 14, 15-year-old child.
Thanks very much, Mark.
Thanks
very much.
Well, I don't think that deserves a round of applause, would it?
Now, more responsible, more grown up now. That is interesting because I've heard you talk about that and say that you sort of sympathise with that officer a little bit. And during the first of the big COVID lockdowns, the sort of one where there really was all that contention about whether or not to go surfing, you were very clear about your belief that key workers and the law enforcement,
that's right,
shouldn't be stretched. And despite being one of the closest people in the town to the ocean, you stayed out, didn't you?
Yeah. I mean, I did. I could chuck a tennis ball or two into the water from here, but I just... Look, if I was 18, if I was that age, right, wild horses wouldn't have stopped me anyway, but I'm not that age, and I was old enough to go, well, oh, hang on now, Greg, if you go in there now, you're going to persuade others to go in there, and then all of a sudden, you could potentially... be stretching the NHS, I also thought you'd probably end up on Wales on Sunday, where you'd be on the news with your son pushing your son in, and they'd be like, oh, look at this pair of idiots. So I knew I had a lot to lose, but I also felt in my heart it wasn't the right time. There was a time when it wasn't really, it was time to give it a miss for a while.
It was probably it was a time for reflecting on what was going on around the world and on our doorsteps. And, it was a very difficult time for surfers, and it was and the story you've just said about being arrested outside for surfing at the Esp. It's probably not since then have we seen police activity on our shorelines. On the basis of COVID. So strange times. Right stance.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I spoke to a police officer down Coney about it all, and no one really knew the rules at that stage, did they? Really, no one was saying
interpretations.
That's right. You could go if you really wanted to, and if you could walk there and say, "Oh, look, this is my exercise," you could get away with it. But you had your own morals to fight, and if you felt like I did it.
I think in the early days it was really difficult because nobody knew what COVID meant exactly.
No, that's right.
It wasn't exactly like... Nobody knew for sure that you could be 2 metres apart, wear a mask, and you should be 95, 99%, whatever it was, safe. It was the unknown silent assassin, and nobody, until the scientists could go, okay, this is safe, this is safe, this is safe. So we all had to sort of bide our time a bit until we knew that, being actually outdoors and in the sea is probably one of the safest things you can do.
Yeah, that's right. But at that point, there was more questions than answers.
Of course it was.
And we were erring on a side of caution, really, I suppose.
And you're a public figure, certainly in this area, and if, as you say, whatever you do, people look at what you do and would undoubtedly say, well, it's all right for him to do it. He's Greg,
exactly.
He's that.
All I'd have done was gone persuading loads of others to go in.
That's it, yeah.
And basically saying, oh, guys, go down West Bay, it's fine. So I took the other initiative, and I went the opposite, and I said, look, I'm going to stay out. Do what you want, but I'm out of this, with surfing, it's hard grained into my cranium, me and surfing it's connected to every cell of my soul, these days it's to do with my work, it's to do with my kids, I'm so linked up with it all, going in at those sort of times would have just been a bit lunacy, really, and attract too much heat in the wrong direction.
You mentioned it being, ingrained into your soul, and as well, surfing has been your business, your life work, really, hasn't it, in every single way. And we were talking about the early days in terms of being a young surfer. Can we also talk a little bit about the early days of No Limit as you run it? Because No Limit was originally, as our listeners who listened to the interview with Mark Schofield last year would know, it was originally Mark Schofield and Bennett Ruddle, wasn't it? And then did you sort of start off doing a bit of working with her and then take it over? How did that come
that's
about?
pretty much how it went.
Yeah.
Like Mark and Ben were fantastic to me. They were really good role models, and they encouraged me and helped me. But Mark was never really going to make a living with his hands, and neither was Ben. Mark was going to make a living talking, right? He's a great talker.
Yeah.
And Ben was going to make a living with his head, doing mathematics.
Yeah.
He's brilliant-minded. Neither of them were actually born for making items with their hands, whereas I was. And I looked at it and I thought, right, well, with the surfing and the wetsuit business, they basically said, I paid them money I sort of bought it off them in a way, right? But we all walked away happy as Larry. And we've always had a loving relationship, all close together. I am close to them. No, any given Sunday, well, we sit down and we're good as gold, right? So we walked away all happy as Larry. They moved on. That wasn't really for them, right? But I continued with it, right? So with the surfing and the wetsuit manufacturing, I was very fortunate with the wetsuits. I knew I was going to make wetsuits. I knew that was going to be my job from about the age of 14, 15.
It's hard to make a custom wetsuit, isn't it, for someone? Like, did you have to sort of go through that phase of making ones for yourself that didn't quite fit first and all things like that, or
it's down to do with it's to do with how good your patterns are, and it's to do with how good your formulas are, and how much you think that neoprene is going to stretch, and how much you need that neoprene to stretch in certain areas, right? You need certain stretch tolerance in different areas, like obviously on the waist. It needs to be almost firm.
Did you teach yourself it, discover it, or did you sort of...
Yeah, I did. Mark helped me as well with the patterns and that. He was great at that, and we went through it, and I just carried on then, and every time you just go back and you tweak the patterns and you make it closer, and the more you do, the better they become. It's like anything
You're
in life.
surfing in them all the time as well, so you...
That's right.
I feel like,
That's right. There was a real desire to make the best wetsuit I could, I cared about the suits, in a way that I care about surfing, in a way that I care about the surfers who I surf with and the surfers who I don't surf with. The suits, basically, I was fortunate. I knew I was going to make suits for a living for the rest of my life, right? At the age of 15. Now, that's rare to have a guy think, right, I know what I'm going to do, and then go out and do it. I didn't need to go to college. I didn't even need to do A-levels. I thought, I'm out of here. I'm going off surfing and making wetsuits as my business. And I thought, right, the better the surfer you get, the more competitions you win, the more the name you're going to make for yourself, and the easier it's going to be to sell wetsuits, and the more respect you're going to have, and the more kudos you're going to get. So it's going to be an easier ride setting up a business. So that was part of my motivation to try and become a good surfer or like a champion, was to try and make a living for myself. So in a way, surfing was work, and work is surfing. So you know what I mean.
But in that point, Greg, in terms of making custom wetsuits on your doorstep, or even South Wales, it's a relatively small area. You pretty much see your customers amongst you surfing all the time.
All the time.
So if you've got made a bad product, you're going to hear about it pretty sharply, and that's going to spread. And I've never heard anyone have anything other than high praise for the quality of the wetsuit and aftercare service that you give. So
thank you very much.
I mean, not that I've ever had one off you.
Your brother has, though.
My brother has. Yeah. Well, he's my only reference point, to be fair.
No, they look. I have people come back to me. People say to me, "Do you get many repeat orders?" And I say, "Well, no, not really. They just have a suit and they go away. They might come 5-6 years. They don't need to come back.
Yeah.
The suits are great. They last." Do you have many referrals and references of other clients? Yes, that's the thing. Other guys say to the other guy, "Oh God, you've got to go and do that." So the reference rate is high, let's say, because they last. I regularly have people come back to me and say, "Oh look, I've had this suit for 6 years. There's nothing wrong with it. I just want a new one."
Talking about mixing your persona as a surfer with your role as the proprietor of this surfing business, right? So the wetsuits, they're an extension of your surfing, right? And your surfing is kind of they're inextricably linked to each other. The earliest part of your competitive career, Greg, involved coming second in the Welsh a good couple of times in a row, right?
Sure.
You're a very competitive person, right? Like round your factory, I remember as a grom, you were making us have competitions over like who could drop a pen to the floor and catch it the quickest. Who can guess the name of the next song that's coming on Radio 1, with the quickest and all this kind of thing, right? You're a really competitive guy.
It's a cultural bag.
Right? And I remember in particular, right?
Carry on.
19. This is Mark and Lard. We're right back in, are we, Mark and Lard here?
We did it, so we're going to digress, but we went on a Welsh team trip and we played that game, the yes-no game, for about 400 hours.
Are you ready to play the yes-no game? Yes, no.
Sorry, Tom. Go on.
No, it's just wonderful memories, that show. It's still, you can listen to bits of it now. You can hear there's various versions of the yes-no game and the cheesily cheerful challenge.
I'm going to have to Google that.
The shed of dread.
No way. I'm all over that. That's for sure.
So, right, we go from Smiling to this. 99, right? I remember in particular the Welsh in Manorbier, right, when it was Nate Phillips. Or was it 99 or was it 2000? 2000.
No, I won it in 2000.
99.
So that certainly wasn't hard.
The year Nate broke his board halfway through the final and he blasted back out, got two screaming lefts across the beach at sort of mid-tide, big onshore Malibu.
It was big onshore, right? Manorbier.
And I remember you in that pub, like you were the phrase that you were sick as a parrot, right? and I can remember you walking around and you were kind of mumbling, and you've said you sort of wished you'd won, you felt like stuffing your trophy away. I think Vaunt is particularly interested in asking you about that kind of dichotomy between winning and losing, but I want to ask you, right, what's it feel like? Because that's what a really, really powerful, strong-minded competitor, they have to go through that pain. They hate losing, right? And it's the guys who pick themselves up and go back the year after that become heroes.
For sure.
And it's the guys who go, that pain was so much, I can't face that pain again. So next year, I'm going to go down with a dodgy wax job and a hangover and not try my best. And then at least, because you tried your best, you'd come up short. But what does it feel like on Monday morning when you go into your surfing-related business to work in this sport that the day before has hurt you so much?
Well, it's back to the drawing board, isn't it? By Monday, you've got to get your head straight. I mean, at the time, after that loss, you do want to throw your trophy in the sea. You just, for me, look, I got to the final of that Welsh 10 times, right?
Yeah.
And I only won it 3 times.
Right.
So it's a lot of averages. You get it. You don't go to the final of any contest really and win it straight away. It just doesn't quite happen like that.
And there's that famous Michael Jordan poster, isn't there, about the number of times he's been asked to take the game-winning shot and failed and all those various stats. And he says, I failed many, many times in my life, which is why I succeed.
That's right. You've got to learn to lose before you learn to win. Yeah. But at the same time, the losing, if you don't like losing, you show, what's they saying? Show me a good loser, and I'll show you a loser.
Yeah.
You can't. No one likes losing. If you're fine with losing, you're never going to really succeed. It's got to hurt, but you've got to have a coping mechanism. And mine was, I'd go in, I'd have a massive burger from the van.
Burger. The whole thing.
With loads.
Well, you've been on the lettuce sandwiches for a while, mind you.
Bananas and lettuce sandwiches for the lead up, and I'd have loads and loads of mustard on it as well, right? And burn my head off and just go and I
punishing yourself.
And I'd just go back to the car or the van and just sleep and just exit planet Earth and just get out of here. Yeah. I'd wake up. And I'd possibly have a drink or two with friends then, to just wash it off. Come Monday, Tuesday, it's back to the drawing board. You've got to think, well, I've done well. I could hardly ever look at it like that, but you've got to think, well, what did I do wrong? How can I do it better? And then just kick on and try it again. Just get back to the surfing and just gain momentum and confidence again. Yeah. But it's not easy.
Because it is a massive like, for me with the Welsh nationals, it was, I've described to Tom before. It's just, I think because of the era we grew up in terms of, surfing events were limited. There wasn't hundreds of events. The Pro Tour was a pipe dream for most British surfers, and the Welsh Nationals as a Welsh surfer was like the pinnacle of what you could achieve before going to the next level with British, then European, then world, and it was almost like they were the only options.
You had to get it right there to start with.
Yeah, and for you, like, I know how competitive you are, and like that pain and hurt, but you turn that around, and then that feeling of that first win.
Oh, when you win it, geez, look out.
How many beers did you have after that?
I was king of New York. That town's getting painted red, all right?
When you won, right? Forget the heat, forget the process. What happened immediately after once you got through all that, razzmatazz? I mean, of course, I can't even think, was there be mobiles then? Would you have had a mobile, maybe? Did you phone home? Did you just scream back to Porthcawl? Did you stay there?
Sooner or later you're screaming. I used to do the screaming sort of in a secretive place. You'd go back to the van or the car, and you were daft to scream your lungs out.
Yeah.
Because you were just so blown away.
Yeah. And you've got that for 12 months then.
That's right, yeah.
The top dog.
Yeah.
The 10 minutes before the presentation is horrible, though.
I hated it.
Oh, the whole, yeah.
They read out.
That's the hardest time for me.
Oh,
It's not you.
That whole,
I feel
fourth
tight.
place. I'm not fourth. Oh, that's good. And of course, you've got everyone, because there was no electronic scoring, nothing like that. Everyone's like, what do you think? Oh, you're first or second, first or second. The amount of people that said, oh, you're first or second, fourth place, Mark Vaughan. You're like, what?
Yeah.
I just felt like, you saw it. You like, and that second place.
So then they go second place.
Breath hold.
Your first Welsh was it was Swino, Frenchie, and
LBR
Cat,
crew.
was it in the final year?
Yeah. Swinno, no, James, I think. Swinno, Frenchie and James.
Okay.
And they were on a peak a little bit further to the right than me, and I was on another peak, which...
And this was at Freshwater Well.
Yeah, in Fresh. It was about mid-tide, and as I recall, the peak I went for had less waves going in through it, and they were slightly smaller, but they were running faster.
Right.
And I just thought, right, get on that, clip our vertical 3 times. Back then, you had to get 3 or 4 waves, right?
Hope for the best.
Yeah, and it worked out good. They were all, they stuck together and sort of tussled with each other, and I just went, no.
So they read out second place. It was either Swino or Frenchie, wasn't it? And then
yeah,
you know then.
I think it might have been Frenchie that year, because Frenchie was one of those guys who,
yeah.
I know Chris won a British Cup.
Yeah.
Well, Spud was. Matt.
Spud. It was Spud, Swino, and Frenchie.
Yeah, I don't know who comes second. Interesting question.
Yeah, so it was interesting you don't remember, because and again, I think, the whole, the mental side of it in terms of first and second. I mean, do you recall every second?
No.
Or do you recall all the finals, or do you just recall the ones that you won?
Or the ones that they win, like,
and how you won them?
blown away, yeah. They're the ones that they're downloaded into your cranium at a heavier rate, aren't they? They go straight to your heart. They're significant on your soul. The seconds and you always remember. You sort of have some kind of memory of most of the finals along the way, and something linked up about it,
And you of course have 3.
Yes.
Open titles, Welsh Open titles.
Yeah.
And that 4th one, because I know you mentioned James Thomas, Rhino, aka presenter on the show.
Yeah.
He had 4.
He did.
And as on a local bragging rights, and as being the same school age, and he, as you just said, earlier on, he sort of pushed you into that whole.
I'm very thankful for him as well. Yeah.
Was there any desire to overtake him, to equal him, or was it just? It was.
Yeah. I wanted to get 5. Right. Just run out of time.
Yeah. You should have started it.
You get all that. It was
you were too busy having a good time.
It's that 15 to 20 bit you were talking about earlier.
Yeah. There was times when I was. Well, I remember once I was away. I was coaching a British team. I missed it then because I was in Durban. There was another one. I had an injury.
You've been quite lucky on that front, on the injuries.
But you do
not
you do
so
talk
bad.
about 8.
So
don't
bad.
You talk about 8.
I do say I got 8 Welsh titles. Yes, I do, and I'll tell you why. Right?
Nice. I'm backing him up all the way. Yeah.
Well, you kept what you counted.
every Welsh national win for me is a win.
What, like,
Seniors,
you including, like,
masters,
you're
seniors,
not
and
including
masters.
those.
Hey, hang on,
Oh, hang on, you can't include those.
hang on. I got 0 if you can't include them.
I can't.
You can't include those.
I can, and I do.
Yeah, you include them all you want.
Because
You include
I
them all
see
you want.
these things, like, I can tell you another one who does that is Chris Guts Griffiths. He's like
nothing wrong with
15
that.
times Welsh champion.
For
I'm
sure.
like,
Hey, I'm with him all the way.
I don't know about this.
Right,
I'm with him all the way, otherwise I can't be one time.
Okay, fair enough. All
Right,
right.
Mr. Vaughan, let me talk to you, please, sir.
You talk to him, Greg.
If
Right,
you're-
you listen now, Vaughan,
if
the
you're-
man's right.
If you're like national champion and even say tiddlywinks, right? That's a great achievement. There's a lot of people out there who play tiddlywinks, right?
Yeah.
And also to go into the
Seniors is hard.
the
I didn't
seniors,
say it wasn't.
the seniors and the masters. By the time you get to the final, it's as hard
It's the
as
same guys.
it's the same guys. I mean, you were standing there next to me on most of those occasions, right? I mean,
Yeah, usually second.
no, a lot of the time you'd have it on the win on the day, and some of the time I'd have the win on the day. But my point being, all right, there's less heats to get through to get to those finals, but the finals were as difficult as.
Well, a lot of the time, the senior finals are the same as the open
That's
finals.
right.
But my point is that when somebody says to you, he's 2 times, 3 times Welsh champion, that generally for me means you're the open champion. It's like it's Nick Faldo twice.
I understand
open
what you're
winner,
saying.
you know, is-
I understand what you're saying. But what I would say is,
I'm not degrading your titles at all,
to
or
win-
anybody else who's
to
won,
win the
It's
senior.
just my own viewpoint.
to win the senior or the master, you had to not do the open. So you had to sacrifice the open and say, right, okay, I'm going to go for the other one now. Because you can't just do them all. You're not like, you're not like superhuman. It just didn't work. From my experience, taking care of that open final in itself and taking care of the open victory, you needed to not do any other categories. So for me, it was either do the open or I would go with the senior and the master.
Well, I guess that in
How many Welsh titles you got?
I haven't got a clue.
We'll start.
I'll have to look through the record books. But
Well, you might look at it differently.
It's not 8.
yeah, it's probably 9.
7 3/4 by my math.
Yeah, probably not 7. It'll be 9 or 7 , won't it?
4 of
It's
them in
inevitable.
tiddlywinks.
Oh, yeah, there's no way if I recall that, I mean, there's going to have to be some sort of flipping more results.
Well, there's
tomorrow.
more to come.
But you look at professional sport now, and you look at professional sports, and there's no way that, mind you, swimming. I was going to say, there's no way
Course they
that
do.
professional sports will be able to look at entertaining 2
And
categories.
you've got-
Swimmers do about, they do about 4, 5, 6, even 8.
Different level of fitness.
You want to get down to the gym. You would have won more. No, I digress. It's fascinating listening to your side of
And
because,
that's why I say it's fair to do it. 8.
and you didn't, as far as I'm aware, British title, did that elude
No,
you?
I come second 3 times.
And that is, to the listeners,
the same guy.
that is open
Lee
level.
Bartlett?
That
Lee
is
Bartlett?
open level.
No, that's not open level either. I did come second to Lee.
But in the open, you made the final in the
Yeah,
open.
yeah, you came second to Lee in the open.
I'm a senior and a master.
And so you made three British finals,
Yeah.
open, senior, and masters,
Correct.
and lost to the same person.
Correct. The nemesis, the thorn in the side.
Crikey Moses! I'm surprised you haven't had a hitman to him. If there's a grandmasters, we'll have Bartlett removed from the contest.
Late
some
90s, early 2000s, he was almost unstoppable
some surfer.
in a British surfing competition, wasn't he?
Yeah, he used to come towards the judges on the left hand and he'd be going quicker and quicker as he come along. In the end, it was like flipping Disney dust coming off the back of his board.
Is
like Victor Rebus.
Lee was an exceptional surfer. There's no doubt, and that's another story. And a European title, Greg. Again, I know you made a number of. You'll recall how many finals. I mean, God, I've seen you on that podium a few times.
Yeah, it's hard in Europe, isn't it? It's another level up again. But I got to the final in Ireland and I had a wonderful competition. But I remember it was me and Gemma
The Bundoran year,
in Bundoran.
2011.
We ended up on the podium, yeah.
Yeah.
Gemma
And
Harris.
I was sort of like, I sort of knew it was a good result, and I was quite. I didn't really. Well, of course, you're away with the Welsh team, right? And all the team are close together, and you're all doing the same thing, right? And in the end, they're all looking at you, and you're the guy who's made it to the podium, and I wasn't really that happy. And after that, I regretted that then, because I thought, well, all right, you just took your trophy and you were very sort of...
Remember it, you're very gracious.
Gracious.
And, you know,
Nothing
as you
wrong.
would... No, you
But then
served well.
when I got to the final in the Azores, right...
This is over 35 Masters level.
Yeah,
basically,
that's right. I thought, right, on that podium, I'm going to give it a big one here, right, and I'm going to have a laugh, and I'm going to give the boys something to cheer about, right? And we all had a mega time after that. It was funny on the podium, and we had a hell of a night then, because it was... Everyone needed something to cheer about and that, see, so...
That Azores event, though, I mean, I wasn't at that when I was in Ireland, but the Azores event, that was, in some respects, probably the reason that you enjoyed that more, because you still held that desire and belief that you could perhaps win that Europeans in 2011.
Yes.
And whereas once you got to the Azores, there's another few years on, you're a little bit older, and perhaps it was just to make the final was a fantastic achievement itself, because it was solid ways from what I saw, you know, and difficult ways.
I could have done better, but I didn't. Coulda, shoulda, woulda. I mean, I beat the other guys in the final on the way to the final, but then blew it in the final. Tough luck.
That is the way it goes.
Them's the breaks.
I can offer you some food for thought here, right? You're going to like this, right? Pause and listen for a second now. You, as my memory recalls, and you did touch upon it earlier, you competed for Great Britain at the Worlds in, I forget the year, 96. Okay. And that was at Huntington, California.
It was brilliant.
And you finished in the top 2016?
No, it was 41st.
41st. Oh, my records are rubbish.
But there was 196 people
196 people. And that was the first year, or one of the European years,
like first year
the pros were in.
That's right. Shane Basham, Taylor Knox, Munga Barry was there.
Boris Letexia.
But didn't you go again? You went again to Huntington. You went twice, didn't you? It was to the Worlds, or am I getting you confused with Rhino?
I went to the Worlds as to South Africa, and I was a coach stroke replacement, and I coached the junior section and the longboards. I coached the minor categories, and I was there also as a replacement or a reserve. And they needed it. They didn't need it, so I just coached.
So, but on the basis of that Huntington, so just go back to that, you were in the top. What is it? 46.
41st. And bear in mind,
your 41st stat still works for this food.
Yeah, I think it does,
because you've got guys in the top 44.
Yeah,
who finished filling out the first.
Tom knows where I'm going with this, because I worked out that if that was earlier this year or last year, COVID aside, if you were at the ISA World Championships in El Salvador,
there's 4 Aussies in front of you,
Yeah.
there's 4 Americans in front of you,
Yeah,
there's 4 Brazilians in front of you.
Yeah, you would have potentially have been going to the Olympics in Tokyo this year with that flag as a British surfer, because that, ladies and gentlemen that are listening, is the level that you were at that time in terms of competitively. And 41st, you could have gone another heat or 2 or 3.
my fin fell out in the end. Well, I knocked it on the sand on the. Sorry, no. Yeah, go on.
No, you carry on.
I cracked the fin in the heat before, and what finally killed me off was my own surfboard. I remember flipping the fin fell out.
You damaged it?
It just kept falling off on the waves. I'd take off, and I was like a total beginner.
Glassed in fins.
I flipped the board over. Herbie was on the pier looking down at me. I flipped the board over, and there was two fins left, and I just looked at him as if to say, "Oh wow, it's only a 15-minute heat. What am I going to do here?"
Meanwhile, Taylor Knox is tearing past you, or wherever it is you're in the heat with.
It's ta-ra, sayonara. Out you go.
So, I mean...
But what about what he's saying there then?
Yeah.
That could have been...
Oh, God alive, I'd have jumped to that, right? I was... Look, I'm a Welshman, but I'm a British man as well, right? And I would have jumped at surfing for the UK, and going to the Olympics, that was one thing that I would have dreamed of doing.
No, and almost everyone that's listening, I'm sure.
I wouldn't have ummed and ahed at that at all. No. I would have just gone, hey, put my name down for 2 of them, please.
But Greg, a fantastic competitive career, and in terms of we've had conversations after a few beers, and you've shared with me stuff that you've gone, you know what, maybe I should have, that kind of, you were a little bit older longer in the tooth, greyer in the hair, and you're thinking, should I have maybe given the EPSA a go, or the WQS? Should I have gone and you weren't that far away, maybe with a more prolonged effort, more coaching.
You'd have needed to do that first year where you don't
you don't place that well.
For sure.
To start breaking through, you know.
And surfing with better surfers then progresses.
But then I
definitely.
think in both of your cases, I've said this to Vaughnie and spun him out with it before. I think in both of your cases, you know, you'd have been there.
I personally believe it might sound big-headed. Oh, hope it doesn't.
It won't.
I think we both aimed a little bit low. I aimed to be the best surfer in Britain. All right, I was second. Not that's
Yeah.
right. And yourself, you did get British titles, right? I didn't aim to be the best surfer in Europe. I certainly didn't aim to be the best surfer in the world. Had I aimed a bit higher, had you aimed a bit higher, had you aimed to be the best surfer in the world, you might have been the European champion.
And that's something Llewellyn Whitaker touched upon when we had him on the show going back a few weeks back. He said, aim high.
Yeah.
So we aim for Wales as the pinnacle. And we're both in full-time in jobs, and you had your own business.
That's right.
And that was perhaps a distraction from that striving to go one further. I don't know. But certainly in your case, you know, competitively, you were on such a rich streak from that 95, 96 to early 2000s even. And that, you know, it's... what would you... Sorry, I know Tom would wants to quiz you on some of the sort of thought process of, you know, your own surfing and...
Yeah, I think that's really interesting you're saying there, you know, about mindset and how you box yourself in, because I know that one of the things I enjoy hearing Greg talk about in terms of mindset it's kind of the opposite thing, is how you didn't box yourself in big finals because you were very comfortable surfing backhand. And that is kind of the same thing Vaughnie's talking about there, isn't it? It's about saying, right, you know, I'm aiming for this, I'm aiming for that. And you were telling me that you think that the sort of key to a lot of your big contest wins was that you didn't really have an issue with going backhand, whereas a lot of surfers will sort of try to... Vaughnie just tried to...
I think you might need one of these, Greg.
That was... For the benefit of the listener, Mark Vaughan has just attempted to open a beer very, very, very quietly, only to find that such a thing is impossible.
You don't get to drink with friends very often these days.
So the key to winning contests, not being worried about going backhand, but that's a little bit of a mindset thing too, isn't it? And you were saying that a lot of surfers box themselves in mentally in a big heat because they're looking to go forehand.
Exactly. If you're nervous, right, you tend to go to the forehand, right?
Yeah.
But by doing that, you're limiting what waves you can catch, right? In the heat, the strategy's got to be strategy A: go out and get the best waves that are coming in.
Yeah, Linda Sharp always used to tell me, get yourself on 2 of the best 3 waves to come through.
You're gonna win.
And you'll go through.
Definitely. It's still true today, and it was always back. It was very true back in my day.
Yeah.
For sure.
It's all at beach breaks as well, all the events mostly.
Multiple peaks, left and right. So strategy A, get the best waves. Strategy B, get the best waves. Right? And I didn't care whether the best were lefts or rights, because I'm a goofy foot. If I go out looking for those lefts and the best waves are really rights, then I don't get them, then the other guy's going to get them, and I'm going to not get through that heat or not going to win. He's going to get them and win, so you can't just let them have the best waves.
And it's just so disconcerting when you're in a heatless scenario and you're literally, and if you see that guy who's taking the best waves in the heat, and you're just like, oh no.
That's right.
Especially, I mean, someone like Bartlett, you saw a left or a right coming, you're like, oh no, you were actually hoping that no waves came his way, or the really, really rubbish ones. So it was definitely out. And in terms of your own surfing style and technique, Greg, and I know that I think you have a slightly unusual style, a bit like myself on the forehand. Your backhand was definitely a weapon. But one thing that sticks out for me is that your surfing, when the waves get good, is always super ironed out, and we've had some fantastic surfs and some great waves over the years. But perhaps one of the most amazing things I have ever seen you do was win the Celtic Games, And to explain what the Celtic Games are to those who've never heard of the Celtic Games, it was a water festival that brought all the Celtic nations, and in its first year, I believe it's held in Brittany. And it brought all sorts of different water users together, and people in boats and kayaks and all sorts. And they had, it was 2 full contests of all the Celtic nations,
Grand finals,
and a grand final. And you won the first 2 contests, beat all the better. The Cornish were there, the Welsh, all the French. And Portuguese and the
Galicians.
Basque and Galicians.
Yeah.
You beat them all, not once, not twice, but 3 times.
Yeah.
And the festival that was laid on was very new to us all, because it was a proper sporting event in terms of it was almost felt like a mini Commonwealth Games, isn't it? There was huge stages, huge audiences.
All laid on, we were looked after. It was plush.
Yeah. How was
Food,
that?
drinks.
You had your own song that we all created for you. It was the most complete surfing performance I've ever witnessed, I think, in terms of total dominance from the day you set foot on that beach to the day you walked off, and 5-6 days later.
Thank you very much. It was, I found my own little routine of what I wanted to do before heats. I'd go and find my own little space to warm up. And I found, but like you said, by that time I was probably the best surfing I was doing in my life anyway, or at least I was ahead of the game at that point. But the thing I remember, right, at the end of it, they say go to the podium, collect your trophy, right? I get up to the podium. One guy gives me a glass of champagne, and I just sort of drain it. The next guy puts a Welsh flag around my shoulders and just says, and he said, when you get down in front there, just hold it up. And I said, all right. And I just sort of walked out, and I looked in front of me, and like you said, it wasn't just a surfing event, it was all the other disciplines, kayaking and outdoor.
Thousands of people.
There was about 5,000 to 10,000 people there, and I'm standing there in front of them, looking at them with this flag up, and all the boys up there, I could see them all revving off, and I was just like blown away, and it just blew me away for years, and it was just such a wonderful experience that will just live with me till the day I die.
No, it was, to witness that, it was really something special, and it's hard to explain to our listeners that weren't there, but it was a beautiful beach. It was, the conditions were fun mostly, and we had it was very well organised. Thanks to Hervey and Linda, who put us up in luxury MASH. Remember the TV show MASH? 19, those big like army green tents. We were all on all fold away beds on those, freezing cold, and 20 of us in one of them.
I remember one big baguette with about 14 bits of bacon and 3 eggs in it every morning, and we were all like queuing up.
Herbie just be stood in front of that barbecue every morning, just cursing, going, "I hate camping."
Didn't he?
Just never said any other words.
Camping.
Just, I hate camping.
You never know what anything is. Where's your bags? All unorganised. Camping. I like hotels. I do.
Yeah, it was a great trip and a massive result. Congratulations.
Great stuff there, guys. I'm sure you'll agree that the first part of Greg's tale was both funny and inspiring. In a fortnight, we'll hear more about his surfing, as well as some of the more comedic aspects of his character, including the pranks Vaughan has played on him in the past. Will Greg finally get his own back? Find out on the 20th of September in the next episode of Crest in partnership with Elusive.